All right, so taking a look at laws of cosines and sines, mixed applications. When do I use the law of cosines? Like we said before, it's SAS and SSS. Everything else is sine. For the ambiguous case, if you remember, it's when you're given an angle side side or side side angle. You can read it forwards or backwards. So everything else is going to be the law of sine. So what are those? What are those options? So it's really when you're given two angles and one side. And what would that look like? So that would be angle, side, angle, or angle, angle, side. So two angles and one side. Or when you're given two sides and a non-included angle. In other words, the angle is not sandwiched in between. That's side, side, angle, which is really an ambiguous case. But if they tell you it's a triangle, then it is a triangle. So really all you have to remember is the cosine one and you know it. All right, so the law of sine says sine of capital A over little a, sine of capital B over little b, sine of capital C over little c, or you could do A over sine of capital A, etc. So if you're looking for an angle, sine of A goes on top. Looking for a side, make sure you always label your triangle. So the big letters are the angles and across from the big letters are the small letters. So across are the small letters. The law of cosine, remember, a squared is equal to, and you have to put sine A at the end. So a squared goes with sine A. Then B and C go in the middle. So B squared plus C squared minus 2BC. Or you can write it in terms of the angle. So let's, and this is cosine, sorry. To write in terms of the angle, okay, so we're going to say cosine of A is equal to A squared minus B squared minus C squared. Then you're going to divide it by negative 2BC. Okay, then of course to take the opposite of cosine is the inverse of cosine. All right, so just a quick little summary. So check your understanding. Okay, pause the video and see if you can answer these yourself. When do you use what? Okay, so remember for cosine, it's SAS or SSS. For ambiguous, it's only SSA, and for everything else is sine. So what do I have here? Side, 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 which is law of cosine. What do I have on this next triangle? Side, angle, side, which is law of cosine again. So those are the two options for law of cosine. I then have angle, side, side, or I can read it backwards, side, side, angle. Same thing. It's going to be the ambiguous case. So law of sine, but ambiguous. Unless they tell you it's already a triangle. And the last one is angle, side, angle, which if it's not SAS or SSS, everything is the law of sine. Okay, so that's how you determine it. All right, so let's take a look at an example. We're going to do a little error analysis. So here's the question. To approximate the length of the lake, a surveyor starts at one end of the lake and walks 245 yards. So starts there, walks 245. He then turns 110 degrees and starts walking 270 yards to point B. All right, what's the distance of the lake? So the picture is correct. And this is side, angle, side, which is law of cosine. So obviously, this is the first mistake. The student used the wrong law. Okay, now let's do it correctly. All right, so we're going to label our triangle, always label a triangle ABC. Opposite A is little a, opposite C is little c, opposite capital B is little b. All right, and then we're just going to write out what the law of cosine is. So remember, if I'm looking for little b, my angle must also be capital B. So it'll be B squared equals and cosine B at the end. And then the other two letters in the middle, A squared plus C squared minus 2AC. All right, then just fill in the numbers. What's A squared? What's C squared? Minus 2, and then A again, which is 270. Then C again, which is 245. This is a listening check. Color in the law of cosine. And then cosine of B, so cosine of 70. Now, in order to find B, I have to take square root of both sides. And we're going to put that whole thing in the calculator, just like it looks. So square root of 270 squared plus 245 squared minus 2 times 270 times 245 cosine 70. And always make sure that your calculator is in degree mode, sorry. So B is approximately that, which rounds to the nearest, since it's the nearest yard here. 1 does not change anything, so it's 296 yards. It's a listening check. Put a box around 296 yards. All right, so here's another example. So if two planes are leaving the airport from an angle of 40 degrees, so that's right. One is 300 meters away and the other one's 200. So the picture is right. Find the distance between them. So let's label our triangle. B, C, little b, little c, all right? And we are using SAS, which is the law of cosine. So we're looking for little a, correct? So that's the side. Oh, but the student already put 40. What's 40? Capital A. So the student put it in the wrong spot, which changes all of your answers. So 40 is an angle, not a side. So make sure that capital A goes where it goes. All right, so let's go ahead and write it. A squared is equal to, and A squared goes with cosine. This is a listening check. Correct, that's cosine A. All right, then other letters in between. So you're going to have A squared is equal to what's B? 200 squared. What's C? 300 squared minus 2B, which is 200 squared, and C, which is 300 squared. Again, this is a listening check. Write cosine of A, because this is the cosine law. All right. Once I have that, what am I going to do? I'm going to take the square root of both sides. So square root of this whole thing and put that straight in the calculator. So we're going to just go into the calculator for our last example and change numbers. So the first one is 200, second one is 300, then 2 times 200, then 2 times 300, cosine of 40. And that's approximately 195.127. So round into the nearest whole number because they don't have any decimals. You cut off at the decimal. That 1 isn't going to change anything. So A is approximately 195, and the units are miles. Go ahead and give the other two examples a try, and then, of course, we'll go over it in class. Let's pray.